Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. And AM 630. WMAL.
The fate of the tax cut for the wealthiest Americans will be decided by the outcome of the next election. My opponent will fight to keep them in place. I will fight to end them.
President Obama yesterday saying, hey, let's extend the Bush tax cuts for another year for those who make under $250,000. Let them expire for those who make over $250,000. No huge surprise there. Dan Mitchell joins us. He's economist, senior fellow at Cato Institute. Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
I guess the news, though, out of yesterday was when the president was giving his one-on-one interviews with local media, he did tell a TV station in North Carolina that he would veto any bill, if it got to his desk, for extending the tax cuts for everyone, including those who make over $250,000. There had been some rumors around Washington that there may be a deal in place that would extend these tax cuts for at least a year for everyone. Do you hold the president to his word that he would actually veto something like that if it got to his desk?
No, I think we're looking at political posturing here. Let's not forget this is Groundhog Day. We went through this exact same fight back in 2010. The president, I don't recall if he specifically said he would veto anything, but he definitely had very unyielding rhetoric. Well, we have to make those evil, bad, awful rich people pay more, and I'm not going to accept anything less. What did he do? He accepted a 2-year extension, and that's back when the Democrats controlled the House, the Senate, the presidency, everything.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure he didn't use the veto word there, so it'll be interesting to see. Because if it gets to his desk and he vetoes it, it means it has support of Democrats.
It would never get that far because Harry Reid will not let something through the Senate that the president would veto. So I think we're looking at, as I said, political posturing. Now, it might be more serious than it was in 2010, and he may have decided that his reelection depends on playing the class warfare card as hard and as viciously as he can.
Right.
That could be the case, but I never trust a politician when they say that they're making a promise.
All right, let me ask you this then. In 2010, the president said now is not the time to raise taxes because the economy was still soft and in recovery mode. Are we any better off today than we were in 2010 for, hurting the economy with raising taxes?
Well, technically, the recession ended back in, June or July of 2009. So at the end of 2010, that was 18 months into a recovery, and now, theoretically, we're still recovering. But the real knock against Obamonomics is that historically, whenever we come out of a business cycle, we have strong economic growth for a couple of years. We recover all the lost output. Jobs shoot up. We haven't had that. This has been the weakest recovery since records have been kept after World War II. And that, I think, is what's really hurting us. We are becoming more like Europe, and we're getting European-style numbers in terms of jobs and growth.
Now, the president says that this will protect the middle class and a large number of people who run small businesses who create jobs. Mitt Romney says this will be devastating to those who actually create jobs in this country. Who's right?
I think Romney's right on that because every economic theory, even Marxism and socialism, every economic theory says that you can't have economic growth without saving and investing. And what is the real key to Obama's class warfare agenda? It's not so much the higher income tax rates. It's the increased double taxation of dividends from 15% to 44%. It's the increased double taxation of capital gains from 15 to 23.8%. Those are the things I think that are going to do the most damage, assuming Obama prevails in his class warfare campaign.
I saw an interesting statistic this morning when I was going through all the different things I read before I come on the air. And it said that there are now more people, last month there were more people who went on disability than actually got jobs. That's an astonishing statistic.
Yeah, I thought that was stunning. I did a blog post about it, and I thought more than anything else, that was the most depressing bit of data I had seen about America's future. When you have more and more people climbing into the wagon, riding in the wagon, and then you have the politicians in Washington whipping and beating the people who are pulling the wagon, that's a recipe for exactly what we're seeing in Portugal, in Greece, in Italy, in Spain. You can't make a society work that way.
On the Obamacare ruling by the Supreme Court, where John Roberts said, well, it's a tax, and that's how it's constitutional. Now, Mitt Romney, not necessarily himself, but his spokesperson was slow to accept the fact that it was a tax, or say that it was a tax, still said it was a penalty. Was Romney wrong on that? Is it a tax? Should Republicans be calling it a tax, or should they be saying, hey, the Supreme Court just got this completely wrong? It is a penalty. It's not a tax, and they shouldn't have the power to do this.
What was it Shakespeare said? A rose by any other name would Romney has a big vulnerability on this issue, or at least he has an inability to exploit the issue because, frankly, I think Obama's right when he says that they got the idea for Obamacare from RomneyCare. So he has a hard time saying it's a tax because that means what he did in Massachusetts was a tax. So I think Obama is wrong. I think the Supreme Court is wrong, but Romney is the wrong person to exploit that opening because he's guilty too.
Right. All right. But at the end of the day, does anything change in the law? I mean, the way it's do we know? I mean, the Supreme Court has ruled that it's constitutional, so the law stands as it is written, right? Will we actually see additional taxes taken out of our paycheck? Will we see additional taxes somewhere, or are these all stealth taxes that we were talking about before the law was passed?
We have a bunch of new taxes. I think Americans for Tax Reform counted 21 of them that go into effect, most of them beginning next January 1st because of Obamacare. But the big debate is about, is the penalty, if you don't get insurance, is the penalty that is imposed by the IRS enforced by the IRS, that's quacking like a duck, that's walking like a duck, it looks like a duck.
Right.
Yes. I mean, you get thrown in jail by the government if the IRS isn't able to extract money from you. In my mind, that's a tax. But it doesn't matter. It's all about government control, yes, government spending, government coercion. That's the problem with Obamacare. It was also the problem on the state level.
See, I agree with you completely, and I think that's the message instead of calling. And it seems to me that Republicans are focusing on so much that it's a tax, but it's just the, hey, look, this thing stands now. It's just the expansion of government, expansion of an entitlement program, and they don't work, and they actually suck things out of the economy rather than help it. I mean, to me, that should be the argument, not necessarily focused on tax.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion on it.
Yeah, bingo. It's copying Europe at a time when Europe is disintegrating in front of our eyes. Republicans are sometimes known as the stupid party. I think they're proving it with their inability to exploit the opening with Obamacare.
Well, let me ask you then. It doesn't seem like you have a lot of faith in Romney winning this. Am I reading you wrong on that?
We have a very weak economy. No president has ever won re-election with an economy this weak. Admittedly, we're only talking since World War II about 10, 15 data points. But that being said, I'm not a political scientist, but when I look at Intrade.com, of course, Intrade.com had the betting wrong on the Supreme Court decision. Right. But right now, they're showing what? I think it's like 55-42 for Obama. And I'll take people who are betting as a prediction over polling data.
All right, Dan. Good to have you on. Thanks as always.